Well, first thing I'd say about Steve King, he's my friend. I was chairman of the Iowa Republican Party, and he is a whirlwind. He grew up in a law enforcement family in Storm Lake, Iowa, built King Construction Company starting in 1975 with one bulldozer. Steve King has built stuff. That's important. 6 years in the Iowa State Senate, he was chairman of the State Government Committee and vice chairman of the Oversight and Budget Committee. Oops! The bureaucrats soon found a guy, he didn't like new spending, he didn't want new programs, a tough businessman who demanded less spending and lower taxes. He put the inheritance tax on the chopping block, passed other tax cuts, and made English the official language of Iowa. The huge Iowa congressional district in the western part of the state needed a congressman in 2002. In the primary, you'll like this, your organizers, in the primary, the Speaker of the Iowa House of Representatives, he was a moderate, he was running. The wealthy state senator from the largest city in the district, he was running. From Washington, the House Republican Campaign Committee sent people to work for their favorite candidate. The RNC sent people to work for their favorite candidate. But Steve King, he assembled a super grassroots campaign, fought for every vote. After a long struggle through the primary and convention process, he out-organized everybody, and he won. In the general election, overwhelmingly elected. Overwhelmingly elected every time since. In Congress, King landed on the Judiciary Committee and its Constitution Subcommittee. That's a problem for liberals because he actually believes in the Constitution. What a thought. Steve is the top Republican on the Immigration Subcommittee, where he believes the immigration issue boils down to a couple of things. The rule of law, determining how many people should be let in and sticking to it, and that a country without borders is simply a place, not a sovereign nation. He's fearless. He's Iowa's George Patton, Congressman Steve King.
Stand of the people of this land. This is our country.
Thank you all very much. You know, it's always hard to live up to an excellent introduction, and I think I'm going to be tested in that regard. But boy, I just really like being here at Cpac and getting a chance to talk to all of you. I draw energy from you. And, you know, as I come here and listen to this introduction, and I go back to that time about the test of the primary and general election to be elected to this wonderful honor and privilege of serving the American people in the United States Congress in a constitutional manner, I looked at my congressional district, which is roughly the western third of Iowa. It's shaped kind of like a short-toed boot, roughly rectangular, however. And my opponent said, well, we have more money, we have more political influence, we have more media, we can do all of these things. And I took a look at the map, and someone said, well, don't you live pretty close to the center? I took a nice straight edge on a scale map, and I drew an X on that like you would to find the center of a rectangle. And that X doesn't come to Kyron, Iowa, which is my nearest incorporated community. It comes to southeast corner of Section 28, Wheeler Township, Sac County. And in fact, I will tell you that that X is dead center in the district right over my house. You could stretch a string line from corner to corner. You could drop a plumb bob down my chimney. That's Providence. And so I let them know, of all the money you have, you can't buck Providence. And so now, here we are today with the president. This is going to be the theme that I want to talk to you about. The President Obama has lost his mojo. He came here as the President of the United States with all of this momentum that he created. And by the way, the movement really started in Iowa, more eastern Iowa than my part of the state. And as he built that momentum across the country and he battled against Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton knew more about health care than President Obama did, so President Obama had to get his bona fides up for health care. And so that became a central issue in their primary campaign that was battled out in the caucuses and the primaries across the country. Obama won that, went on to be president, And he was elected and inaugurated with about as much political capital as any president in history. And I had a ringside seat to watch that happen. He had more mojo than any president I remember when he was inaugurated a year and a month ago. But now, the master mesmerizer has lost his mojo. And if we stand our ground as constitutional conservatives, he's not going to get it back. Now, here's what's happened. We're a constitutional republic, not a democracy, as some would say. We're a constitutional republic, and our founding fathers knew the difference. But we have faith in, we're supposed to have at least, faith in our elected representatives. And so when we elected a new Congress in 2008 to extend the majorities that Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid had, and when President Obama was inaugurated on January 20th of 2009, I wrote before that election that if you elect President Obama and Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker, Harry Reid is the Majority Leader, you will have established a ruling troika in America. Those three people can go into a phone booth and do what they will to America, and there's nothing we can do in the short term about it. That's what's happened. They are the ruling troika. You can call this Reid care, you can call it Pelosi care, you can call it Obamacare, and I call it all those things. I also call it troika care. It's the three-way ruling elite that's now running this country. But we have, as American people, we have to entrust our faith in our elected representatives. And so, when we had the economic crisis that befell us, when Henry Paulson came to the Capitol September 19th, 2008, and had his Chicken Little routine, and he said, the sky is falling, I need $700 billion right now to prop the sky up. And we sat there and said, you're in a different arena now. But he made one run at it, and we voted it down. He made another run at it, and it passed. And Henry Paulson got his $700 billion in two different components. That's when the American people started to get really nervous about what they saw happening in Washington, D.C. And then, along through that path of things that happened, we saw the nationalization of huge private sector entities. We saw the nationalization of Bear Stearns, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, AIG, the insurance company. Along came Citigroup, nationalized, Bank of America, and now the American people are starting to think, what have we wrought? The people we put in charge are making decisions to punish the private sector and nationalize that growth engines that have been created by free market capitalism. But they trusted that their elected leaders knew more about Wall Street than they did. And now we find out that we know more about Wall Street than the people in Wall Street know about Wall Street. Unless it was their business model to game the taxpayers, in which case then I will give the nod to the Wall Street brokers. But we saw the nationalization of 8 huge private sector entities, but I've only named 6. Right after that came General Motors and Chrysler. Now, we may not know Wall Street, but Americans know cars. And we know that if you're going to shut down 3,400 dealerships in America and you're going to ice out the secured bondholders that by legitimate right of law held that security for General Motors and Chrysler and hand it over to the trade unions on the voice of the President of the United States, who fired the CEO of General Motors and replaced and hired all but 2 board members of General Motors and put in place a car czar that was 31 years old, that had never made a car, had never sold a car. I haven't seen evidence that he ever owned a car, but if I did, I'd want to ask him if it was an American-made car. And we lost faith in the White House. I wonder why. We knew more than they know. The cars are 31 years old. That was kind of the end of the line for this leap of faith that the American people endorsed the president and the majorities, the Pelosi and Reid majorities, the troika with. And now, we're bludgeoned and beaten by that, and we've watched, according to the Wall Street Journal, 1/3 of the private sector profits nationalized within this last year and a half or so. And right behind that came $787 billion in economic stimulus plan. There was another blank check for the President of the United States to pay off his political benefactors.